तुम्हारा पीपीटी शेयर करो, क्या तुम बनाए हो दिखाओ। I want a good interaction among other friends, not that Akshay will tell and other will खराटे मारेंगे, ये मेरे को पसंद नहीं। पूछो, ask everybody।
So it is visible?
हाँ, तुमने कुछ किया नहीं? हाँ करो, फुल स्क्रीन करो, फुल स्क्रीन। तुम्हारा पेज नंबर नहीं दिया हो क्या
सर
बाबू?
सेकंड पेज सर सेकंड पेज से स्टार्ट किया।
अच्छा, सेकंड पेज से, चलो चलो, ओके
विजुअल।
ओके, चलो 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 बाबू, फुल स्क्रीन करो बाबू, फुल स्क्रीन करो। कि प्रतीक जायसवाल की बीमारी क्या है? प्रतीक जायसवाल की बाजू वाला कौन है? वो कहाँ घूम रहा है? प्रतीक जायसवाल इज नॉट अटेंडिंग। पहले तो बहुत सिंसियरली इंटरेस्ट लेता था। व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम प्रेजेंटली गोइंग ऑन?
Sir, he is attending the lectures, but he has some mic issues.
पता नहीं मेरे को। ये तो आज 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 बंदा अटेंड नहीं कर रहा है, आज तो नहीं कर रहा है फिलहाल। सिर्फ 15 मिनट गुजरा है, सिर्फ 15 मिनट। उसका कोई बीमारी है, सम इन्फेक्शन कुछ। ये माइक फाइक के चक्कर जो बोलते हैं ना, मैं इसको मानने के लिए तैयार नहीं हूँ, कुछ बहाना। छोड़ो, इसको हम लोग रोक पाएंगे, ठीक है। करो करो राकेश बाबू, करो, रात हो गया। अक्षय 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 बाबू करो करो, क्या कर रहे हो तुम? ये सब पहले से करके रखना चाहिए ना। यहाँ पर हम लोग का सामने तुम ये सर्कस करोगे हैं? करो जल्दी, हाँ करो। वही वही तुमसे हो नहीं रहा है।
सर हो गया
कुछ नहीं, फुल स्क्रीन करो।
Akshay, share your full screen, not the desktop only.
सर आई हैव शेयर्ड सर।
नहीं हो रहा है बाबू।
Share your screen, full screen. Choose the first option. While sharing, choose the first option. First one.
ये 6 महीने के बाद अभिषेक भैया तुमको सिखाएंगे है ना? 6 महीने के बाद। तुम्हारा इतना अच्छे अच्छे दोस्त है प्रतीक जायसवाल, उनसे क्यों नहीं पूछते हो? करो करो करो, गधे हो तुम, खाली रास्ते में घूमते हो, कुछ इरादा नहीं अपने आप को इम्प्रूव करने का।
While sharing, the first one. The screen option.
डेस्कटॉप।
No, screen. Full screen. Screen option.
अभिषेक मत बताओ, वो बुढ़ापे में कितना तुम जिन लोग का सीखने का इरादा नहीं, कितना तुम सिखाओगे? ये सब बचपना इन लोग का छुट्टी नहीं। छोड़ो छोड़ो, तुम गधे हो, गधे ही बन के रहोगे। अक्षय, तुम्हारा हमेशा क्षय ही लिखा है नसीब में, अक्षय नहीं बन पाओगे। छोड़ो
सर मैं
क्षय। हाँ, हम लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं, सुबह हो जाएगी।
सर हुआ
कुछ नहीं, तुम्हारा क्षय ही नसीब में लिखा है, अक्षय तुम बन नहीं पाया। करो करो करो, चे हम तो निकले गधेरम, गाना गाओ। चलो चलो चलो, कौन इंतजार करेगा? तो नाच रहे हो रास्ते में, सीखने के लिए कोई इरादा नहीं। अक्षय स्टार्ट डेट, और नहीं मैं टाइम दूंगा। आई डोंट हैव फ्री टाइम फॉर यू। अक्षय स्टार्ट डेट।
सर
तुमसे हो नहीं रहा है, तुम तो रास्ते में नाच रहे हो, पढ़ने की इरादा नहीं।
Don't choose the desktop option. Choose the screen option. The first one while sharing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So now it is visible.
Make it full screen. Go for slideshow. Press F5. F5.
Sir F5. Sir F5.
Yeah. Go.
So today I am
Yeah.
going to
Go.
present.
Yeah, yeah,
Today I
yeah.
am
Go ahead.
Today I am going to present a PPT on WS addressing and how we can implement it in Oracle SOA suite. So
Okay.
before going to WS addressing, we should know that what actually web service is. So web service is a standardized medium to propagate communication between the client and server application on the World Wide Web. So it provides a standard protocol format for communication like sir XML, JSON, and such HTTP protocol. Web service is a type of platform independent communication using which two different applications like sir Java in and in C++ sir we can it is a platform independent like sir in Windows, yeah, we can transfer a file to Linux operating system which is written in C++. How a web service work? For this we need somebody who would be creating this web service and we call them service provider, or we can say server. Server is one which develop, implements and make it available over the internet. To enable communication we need two things between client and server. One is format and other is medium. Format is HTML or JSON and medium is HTTP. Like it is like we can say example like we went to a restaurant and there we ordered a food to a waiter and waiter goes to a kitchen and brings back our order. So in this case waiter is like a web service. There are generally two types of web service: SOAP and REST. It is simple object access protocol and sir representational state transfer protocol. It SOAP generally have a format in XML and sir it is REST support both XML and JSON. Web, ad, web addressing. What is web addressing? Why we need to go to web addressing? SOAP does not provide a standard way to specify where a message is going, where to return a response, and where to report an error. That's why we use the concept of web addressing. Whenever any service providers create the web service and upload it to the server, then server provide the address to that web service through which service consumer can use that web service by the use of that address. Through that address only he can access that. And one more important thing is that if the service is not executed as per the plan, then in that case what will happen? We can understand it by sir by example like if our institute want to send some documents to a student to us, and in if that case a postman does not able to found our address, so there is an institute address written on it and it will be back to the institute. Web address in in this sir I have seen the example where the service consumer send the request and he want the response from that particular web in suppose in case of bank account, it we can say the example of bank account. In the case of bank account, it provide a bank account to the bank and bank searches that account number and fetch the balance. And in that case, if a server is down, then it will give us the message that server is not currently working. Web service addressing defines two interoperable construct that convey information that is typically provided by transport protocol and messaging system. Interoperable here generally means a computer system or software able to exchange and make use of information. These constructs normalize these underlying information that a uniform format that can be processed independently. Here the two constructs are endpoint reference and message information header. Here by the use of WS addressing, we can use it in other web service extension like WS policy, web service metadata exchange, web service security, SOAP messages, web service, and WS reliable messaging. Like in the case of reliable messaging, WS addressing provide endpoint identification features. Endpoint reference. Endpoint reference is an XML structure encapsulating information useful for addressing a message to a web service. Suppose if we want, in this case reference is very important. We should know where the service is currently running, and we should know the exact locations of the service. And here we use, in that case we use WSDL policy. WSDL is generally is an XML based interface that is used to describe the functionality of web service. In this example, suppose a service requester send a service request to service V with the help of endpoint, and reference is important, where that service is currently running and on which server. If you know the server is found, in that server, if the service is successfully running, then only a request is processed by that particular server. Now another construct is message information header. It defines the full set of addressing of information that can be attached to a SOAP message. In message information headers, we can say there are many fields, and the mandatory fields are to and action fields, each of which specify a URI. Other optional messaging addressing properties are like reply to, fall to, from, and these generally define the model and syntax of a message information header. WSDL. It stands for Web Service Description Language. A web service cannot be used if it cannot be found. The client invoking should know where the web service means where the web service currently is. Secondly, the client application needs to know what the web service actually does, so that it can invoke the right web service. Now, implementations. Web service addressing provide a way for messaging, routing, and correlation using SOAP headers. It uses various frameworks like Service Bus, SOA-Suite, JAX, WS to implement it. And in an synchronous interaction, the following headers are important, like request, reply to, message ID, relate to. Message ID can be used to avoid processing the same messages twice. Like in this example, in the request, reply to specify the address where the reply must be sent. The message ID contains a unique ID which can be used in future. There are another headers, for example, actions, which are important but for creating an asynchronous interaction, like reply to, message ID, and relates to, or all that are required. So as Oracle as to support WS addressing and provide out the box correlation support using BPL here. BPL here Here BPL generally means business process execution language, used for which is used for the definition and execution of the business process using web service. Using BPL, no code is required to use WS addressing for correlation. BPL builds on the foundation of XML and web service. It uses an XML-based language that supports the web service technology in SOAP, WSDL, UDDI, WS level messaging, WS addressing, and WS transactions, etc. Test scenario. A SOA composite. Here, what is SOA composite? SOA composite is like an assembly collections of service component and reference designed and deployed together in a single application. What a SOA composite will implement here an asynchronous web service. Now, why we are using asynchronous web service in place of synchronous? Because it provides reliable, fault tolerant, and scalable architecture. Like, for example, we can say the SOA composite might be running in a local domain, where while the service bus project might be running in a SOA cloud service instance. This will allow to SOA composite to only receive traffic from trusted networks, and the service will handle all security. Asynchronous messaging styles are useful for environment in which a server such as loan processor can take a long time to process a client request. WS. Now, introduction to invoking an asynchronous web service. For the asynchronous web service, the following action take place. And first, an activity is created to an assign activity, and it prepares the loan application. And it after that, an invoke activity initiate the loan request. The content of this request are put into a request variable. This request variable is sent to the web service, asynchronous loan processor web service. When we can say the loan request is initiated, there a correlation ID is generated which is unique, and it ensures that the correct loan offer response is written to the user, or we can say service consumer, like who requested the service. The loan process web service that sends the correct response to the receive activity which has been tracked by the correlation ID. An assign activity reads the loan application offer which is it has requested it for in the beginning. Thank you.
Okay, so
Yes.
Abhishek.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anything he left? Check कर लो.
Akshay,
Yes, sir.
what is that correlation ID in
Sir,
WS address? Correlation ID.
correlation ID in WSDL.
Correlation ID in WS addressing.
Sir, it is like it when we sir when the service is when we generate an activity, and sir like we have generated, we have given request it, like in the loan processor system we have, sir generally we use correlation ID.
What's happening?
Sir, I don't read much that about correlation ID, sir.
You have just explained. The correlation ID in the second last slide. Please
Yes.
go to that second last slide. Second last slide. Go to that second
Sir,
last.
but So yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have, but sir, I don't read that much about correlation ID here.
You
Sir, it
see,
in yes, sir.
go through that example first. It was already explaining why we
Sir,
required correlation ID. The second point, when the loan requested is initiated, a correlation ID is unique to the client and the partner link initiating the request is along. And the last one, the correlation ID ensures that the correct loan response is returned to the corresponding loan application requester. So it simply
sir,
ensures, yeah, go on.
sir, if and sir, if what it would, sir, what it would say if an wrong loan of a response is sent to the loan application requester in that case.
See, in case of asynchronous web services,
Yes,
we
sir.
get the response after some time. At later point of time, we get the response, right? So in the meantime, let's say I
Yes,
am
sir.
again requesting something from the same web service, right? So how the web service provider
Yes, sir.
will know whether I am responding to the first request or the second request. So it's generally keep it with
Yes, sir.
keep the correlation ID from the web requester, right? Means service consumer.
Yes, sir.
So that
Yes,
for
sir.
returning some response after some time for asynchronous systems, basis on the basis of that correlation ID, it provides the it gives the response, right, to the
Yes,
corresponding request. For the corresponding request, it provides the corresponding response.
sir. Yes, sir. Sir, means sir, it generally help us in that the service we request. It is it correct or not?
पहले बोलो तो कौन सा
So correlation ID. It
तो क्या
generally helps the user or requester that the response
it
he got
generally
is
helps in
correct.
mapping.
Like is
It generally helps in mapping from particular request to particular response, right?
okay, sir. Okay.
In case of asynchronous
Map,
system,
yes,
it simply maps the corresponding request to corresponding response.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
ओके चलो नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट चलो अभिषेक नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट किसी को बुलाओ अभिषेक
विकास
हाँ
विकास कुमार
विकास बाबू आ जाओ
यस सर
आ जाओ जल्दी 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 हाई स्पीड जाएंगे कहीं ना रुकेंगे जल्दी आ जाओ
सर इज विजुअल
हाँ फुल स्क्रीन करो ना
यस
करो
सर
फुल स्क्रीन करो भाई
सर नाउ इट इज फुल स्क्रीन
हाँ जी बढ़िया 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 ओके
ओके
ओके ओके
business process in context of first we have to discuss on what is SOA and business architecture. In SOA is a architecture style that focuses on enterprise software services that are used for multiple applications. When business grow, for example, when business grow, they often add new product and services. While this addition may helps make business larger. If you take some real example, a company sells something thing through online store. After a few months of successful sales, the company decided to something feature like department. Then it is easy to use in service-oriented architecture. Basically, service-oriented architecture makes it possible for the business to add a new feature and services without having to create them from scratch. They can be modified as needed, making simple and efficient to extend the business. If you talk about the business architecture, then it looks at the system from the business perspective. Business perspective means it's a business level of view. And in business architecture, there is it's the business product and business views. And ground for enterprise architect and business analysts. Now, come to the business architecture view. There is two questions. We have to what and how. What responses the what is products and feature, and how responses the business process, and how it is workflow, and how workflow diagram connects with business function and into that application. Now some service-centered mentality about the business process. Business process use business services, and business services use integration and internal services, and integration and internal services use data layer services. In business services are services that performs specific business function and are required for the successful completion of the business process. That is automation for the business process. And in integration and internal services, that it is a strategy to whose goal is to be synchronize the services. That is better way to use to business services. And data layer services, it is abstract layer for the data access. That is in physical schema. The purpose of data layer services is to provide the constant interface for the accessing data. Now, business process. What is business process? It is a method that improves the performance of business and build the operational solution for service-oriented architecture. And its business capabilities such as people, process, systems, technology, etc., which enable to be simpler, efficient, and that mechanism can simplify and that we can tell the BPM, that is a business process management. Now, some relationship of BPM and SOA. In BPM, it's provide operational solution, which are main thing for business and process analyst. And in SOA, it is architecture important to architect and engineer. In BPM, it uses visual services to deliver the enterprise capabilities, and in SOA, it is same as BPM, but that delivers enterprise capabilities depending upon the reusable web services. And in BPM, it uses services to bring up their objective, and it's in SOA, it contains services which implemented with a business process can be altered quickly according to the business process. And in BPM, it specifies as organization of business capabilities. What is capabilities? People, process, technology, and data. And in SOA, it describes as the organization of technical capabilities. What is your technical capabilities? Like activities, events, and documents, and data. It is a business rule that points to the improvement of operation in BPM. And in SOA, it is an architectural style that points to system of the enterprises. Now, business process layer. What is business process layer and comes in picture in context of SOA? In the past, business process flow typically embedded in software component and user interface. And the SOA reference architecture SOA and change in past in the ability to change as the market changes, and therefore introduce a specific layer. Therefore, SOA introduced a specific layer for business processes and flow, and that layer is called the business process layer. And business process layer covers process representation and composition, and provides glass for aggregating loosely coupled services as a sequencing process aligned with the business. In this, data flow and control flow are used to enable the interaction between services and business process. And interaction exist with the enterprises across multiple enterprises. This includes information exchange flow between participants, resource and processes in a variety of a form of achieving some business goal. And here what is that individual user and business entities. And business process represents the backbone of the flow of business. Now, in business process layer, this layer supports and manage the business process and enable the SOA to choreograph or orchestrate service to realize the business process. There are multiple categories of the capabilities that the business process layer needs to support. Process definition. In this section, there is the ability to define the process, which is dynamically aware of the process. Event handling, it to detect event and listen to the business event in the context of business process. In process runtime enablement. Process runtime enablement. In this, we will discuss in this all the operation which is performed at the runtime, that like realize and deployment, deploy the business process, create, manage individual instances, execute business process and its sub process, and so many things that interaction of the business process with human. Now, fourth one, process information management. It is the ability to manage the business process. That is the state of processes that is to be managed. What is data flowing, that is transform based on that needs to be managed, store and retrieving the assets that is to be managed, and business decision management. In this, ability to configure the relationship between the composition and non-functional characteristics of the process flow. And there is a process integration, security and policy compliance, process monitoring and management. Okay. Now come to the business process layer. Here is a application layer, service interface layer, business process layer, and here is the some architecture service layer which is performed to the, in fact, the business process layer to business service layer. If you talk about historically, business processes were designed by the analyst using tools and that produce the diagram, and that handed over to the architect and developers for implementation. And in this communication flow of processes, and behind it, some should be with it within this automation solution. And all flow of business process working help of WSBPL. What is WSBPL? Web Services Business Process Execution Language. This is the business process execution language, and it is automatically in the background when we implement. And the result is a diagram on the front it that expresses the enhanced vision of that process. And at the back end, computer executable process definition has shown at the back end. Now, BPM terminology, it is an acronym of BPM itself, which can understand by the two things. One is business process management, and other one is business process modeling. And process modeling is part of the business process management. There is one confusion, business process management and workflow management. Business process describe what has to be done, including input and output part. It and might use any kind of resources. In workflow, it describes how a certain result can be reached. It looks further into detail of all steps or process. Here we can see business process, and they have some sub process, and sub processes have sub processes, and they have some activity with achieving some goal with that step. And here is a workflow layer. And in workflow, some activities have some goals to achieve that helps in the business process layer. And in this, some abstraction in workflow layer. Now, some example on here is a customer order, and they have some process layer. Process customer calls in, identify customer, record order, create product, ship product, send bill. They have some processes, and this is the business process view. This is the business process view, and this is the service view. And when I identify customer, that regards when the customer is something that purchase or some that related activity that is stored in the CRM. What is CRM? CRM is customer relationship management. And here is order and logistic. Some logistic is there that is saved. If you example is something filter operation that is on filter. Hello sir.
चलो
Hello.
Is it visual?
Not
Hello?
yet. Yeah.
Not yet.
Now it is.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yes. Okay. Each process have some sub process, and each sub processes have some activity, and there is that we have. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How many slides are there?
Sir?
How many slides are there?
और
Sir,
कितना
Total number of
है
slides in your PPT.
So my PPT.
Yeah.
Sir, I was not supposed to present.
No, Vikas. I am asking to Vikas.
Oh, so sorry, sir. I thought yes.
विकास का नेट प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है शायद. ही इज हैविंग नेट प्रॉब्लम. उसको मैंने क्लियर उसका ऑडियो इज नॉट वेरी क्लियर उसका। विकास, विकास उसका ऑडियो पंगा कर रहा है। विकास प्लीज डोंट माइंड, वी आर नॉट अलाउइंग यू टू फर्दर प्रेजेंट। दूसरा को बोल दो, उसका शायद कुछ पंगा हो रहा है। दूसरा को अलाउ कर दो। अभिषेक,
ओके सर।
हाँ दूसरा को उसका शायद नेट
कैन
में
आई
कुछ।
गिव सम एग्जांपल्स ऑन बिजनेस प्रोसेस?
हाँ हाँ दो तुम रखे हो क्या? दो।
यस सर। ये तो
हाँ, दो बाबू दो।
किसी के साथ ऐसा हुआ है कि कोई रेस्टोरेंट में गया हो या छोटे से होटल में गया हो, उसको कंफ्यूजन हुआ हो कि पहले पहले मुझे ऑर्डर करना है या पहले खाना है फिर बाद में पेमेंट करना है? किसी के साथ? एनीवन?
नहीं हुआ है। दे हैव नॉट
अच्छा,
बॉदर फॉर इट। छोड़।
किसका वोटर आईडी में नाम जुड़ा हुआ है और किसको किसको मालूम है कि कैसे किया जाता है?
हेलो सर।
यस राकेश।
हेलो।
राकेश
हेलो सर।
बोलो।
सर विकास में सर।
या ओ विकास।
सर नेटवर्क चला गया है सिस्टम में।
ओके
नो इंटरनेट दिख रहा।
महेंद्र शर्मा,
Yes, sir.
register for your voter ID card?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have already registered. Like I have my voter card, sir, from last 5 years.
You know,
Hello.
Rishabh, do you know how to register for a voter ID card?
Yes, sir. Actually, I am not like never going for the online process, but
I
actually,
am to Rishabh.
okay, sir. Sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Someone who does not know how to register for a voter ID card? Anyone? जल्दी करो, टाइम नहीं है हमारे पास। जिसको नहीं मालूम है उसी को बिजनेस प्रोसेस कहते हैं। जिसको पता नहीं है हाउ टू प्रोसीड, हाउ टू रजिस्टर अ वोटर, हाउ टू रजिस्टर देयर नेम इन अ वोटर आईडी कार्ड in a government organization, that is the business process, right? What are the different means several steps to proceed to register yourself in a voter ID, for your name in the voter ID list? That is the business process. If you goes to a particular restaurant and if you does not know whether I should buy a token or whether I should pay first and then I go to place some orders for some dishes, and or it may possible some restaurants have their facility that you can directly go and eat, and then after eating you can directly go to the desk and pay the bill, right? So this is the business process, right? So in a complex organization like huge like banking system, so at some years back, let's say 20-30 years back, what was the process? They all the bank employees are maintaining their data in files or big huge files, right? So a person comes into picture. The name of the person, the designation of the person is the business analyst, right? What he does, he simply observes what are the different business process for each kind of operation. Suppose I want the procedure for opening an account in the bank, right? I want some loan from a particular bank. What are the procedures I should follow, right? So these are the business process. So the business analyst captures all the different kinds of business process existing in a particular organization, and it simply hands over all the business process architecture to the technical architect, a person in technical domain. So it simply hands over the all the collection of business process to the technical architect. It was happening in the previous software development paradigm, but nowadays in service oriented developing a service oriented architecture for a particular domain or a particular enterprise, the business analyst who does the business analysis of a particular process, what are he simply list all the different business process of a particular organization, and he simply sits with the technical architect, means the team of technical architects, and then they collaborate with each other and they come up with a particular solution. They come up with a particular architecture. That architecture is known as service oriented architecture, right? Everyone getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So Rishabh,
Yes, sir.
you present please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is it visible in the full size?
Yeah, completely.
Yes.
So tiers and layers in architecture and their implementation. Also, we'll further see the non-functional requirements and measurement of those non-functional requirements. So tier versus layer. A tier is a unit of deployment, while a layer is a logical separation of responsibility within the code. So while looking in many resources, I found that sometimes a tier is also referred to as a layer. But we'll stick with the first definition and consider tier being a physical unit and layer as a logical unit for concept definition, concept defining. Software architecture consists, in layered architecture in the previous semester, we have seen that client server based and the virtual machine based. So similarly, in this context, software architectures consist of either one tier, two tier, three tier, or n tier architectures within them. So also along with that, we have three layers, three logical layers, and these are general layers. So three layers in general are involved in the application program, namely presentation layer, business layer, and data layer. You may add further more layers in between along with it to improve your architecture or to better visualize the concept of your architecture. So, for example, in PACE we have seen that PACE is practical architectural approach for composing egocentric trust. So we have seen that in which along with communication layer and application layer, we have two more layers in between, that is information layer and trust layer. So we have added a trust layer in between just to conceptualize or visualize the concept that we think is required within the architecture, and we added that layer in between. So that is possible because it is a logical layer. It is implemented logically. So the very first layer that is presentation layer or the client layer. It is also known as client layer, the topmost layer of an application. This is the layer we see when we use a software. By using this layer, we can access the web pages. The main functionality of this layer is to communicate with application layer. So this layer passes the information which is given by the user in terms of keyboard actions, mouse clicks to the application layer. Application layer is below the topmost layer, that is presentation layer. For example, when we log in to the Gmail, where an end user could see the text boxes and buttons to enter user ID, password, and it can click on sign on in that, as we have all seen in the Gmail. The very next layer is the application layer, that is also known as the logic layer. So it is also known as a business logic layer, which is also known as logical layer. As per the Gmail login page example, once user clicks and login on the login button, application layer interacts with the database layer, which is beneath that application layer, and sends the required information to the presentation layer. It controls an application's functionality by performing detailed processing. These layers act as a mediator between the presentation layer and the database layer. So its complete business logic will be written in this layer. all the business logic. Yes, sir.
Can you list some examples where we are using only client layer, not others layer? Means any applications we are in which we are only using client layer.
So let's say in the example in the last lab we have seen we have implemented the SOA, and in which we have after implementing the server. After implementing the server, the very first thing we have used to interact with the web services behind, we have entered some of the inputs.
I am asking about. Sorry. I am asking about any application which is only client, which has only client layer, not the other part. We can have a software which has only
Many of the extensions in the Google Chrome we have seen are just only Chrome based applications. They don't have servers in behind. They interact on that layer only, the Chrome layer, on the client layer. Many of the extensions.
If you are using that Notepad or Notepad++,
yes,
right, it is a kind of that presentation layer architecture, and it has only one layer, that is the client layer, nothing else, right? If you are using that extension in Chrome, at the backend they must be using some your internet data consumption. They must be using your data, right, at the backend. So they are requesting something from the server, and they are getting response from the server. So that is, at least they are 2 tiers. They having 2 tiers. The first one is at your Chrome side, and the second one is at their whatever the server backend running, right? So
yes,
if we are talking about only the presentation layer, so simplest example is the Notepad and the Notepad++, or any application which has only the interface where we could write and simply read, right?
Yes, like media players where we can play music on.
Yeah, can say.
Yes, the very next layer, the very third layer is the data layer. So the data is stored in this layer, the application layer. This communicates with the database layer to retrieve the data. It contains methods that connect the database and performs required action. For example, let's say insert, delete, update. These are all DML commands. So update is a detail command. So insert, update, delete. So these commands can be used in SQL if we connected with the SQL database. So in simple words, it is to share and retrieve the data. So this layer is responsible for sharing and retrieving the data. So moving forward to the one-tier architecture. So one-tier architecture, as we can say, the standalone application. So standalone application, what does that mean? That one-tier architecture has all the layers such as presentation, business, data access in a single software package. Applications which handles all 3 tiers such as MP3 players, MS Office are some under one tier application. The data is stored in the local system or a shared drive. So as we can see that right now I'm presenting on the MS PowerPoint presentation. So we can see the presentation right now. So this is a presentation layer. The PPT itself, the MS PowerPoint presentation itself is on the application layer, whereas this PPT file I have stored in the drive, it acts on the database layer. So all 3 layers are on the single client, that is my machine only. So this is a single tier client, or we can say only a client tier, where we have conceptualized the 3 logical layers, that is presentation layer, application layer, and database layer within a single system. That is a one-tier architecture. Coming down to the two-tier architecture, applications, also known as the client-server application. So 2 tiers. So the very first tier we can say that the client application, and the second tier we can say that the database tier or the data tier. So the client system handles both presentation and application layers within them, and server system handles the database layer. It is also known as client-server application. The communication takes place between the client and the server. Client system sends the request to the server system, and the server system processes the request and sends back the data to the client system. Coming down to the three-tier architecture, three-tier applications, also known as the web-based application. So the three-tier architecture is divided into three main parts. That is the presentation layer or the client tier, application layer, there is a business tier, and database layer on the data tier. So all the 3 layers have been distinguished on different tiers. So client system handles presentation layer, application server handles the application layer, and the server system handles the database layer. So all 3 of the layers has been logically conceptualized on the different physical tiers, that is client tier, application tier, database tier. So what we can see that the database will be on the other machine, application the intermediate application server will be on the another machine, and the client which will be accessing the database through the application layer will be on the another machine. Coming down to the n-tier architecture. So another layer is n-tier application. N-tier application, aka the distributed application. It is similar to three-tier architecture, but the number of application servers are increased and represented in individual tiers in order to distribute the business logic, so that the logic will be distributed. We have also seen all this in SOA-based application also, because SOA is multi-tier application, multi-tier protocol. Why? Because all these different services are implemented on different machines. Designing and deploying web-based applications. So how will design and deploy the web-based application? So properly designing high availability web application is a difficult task due to the overwhelming number of components and failure scenarios that can arise. In real world, there is a large variance between deployments because virtually every web application has its own set of requirements. All web applications have their own set of requirements, different depending upon their usage. An architect should carefully examine each component of their application and ensure that it is properly load balanced, fault tolerant, and scalable. So we'll see in the further slides that how load balanced, fault tolerant, and scalability are achieved in the web-based applications. So there are so the baseline architecture types. The various types of baseline architecture are as follows, which will be used by the web-based application. So the single server template represents the use of one server, virtual or physical, that contains web server, an application, and a database within the single unit. So that is called the single server. The another one is a single site. Single site architecture takes the single server architecture and split all the layers into their own compute instances. So we are splitting all the layers into their individual compute instances, creating the three-tier architecture mentioned. With all compute resources located in the same location, single site architecture is created. There are two versions of single site architecture, that is non-redundant and redundant. So first, coming down to the non-redundant three-tier architecture. So as you can see in the image down there, we have domain DNS, then load balancer, then application, then coming down to the database. So the non-redundant three-tier architectures are used to save on costs and resources, but must accept a higher risk. So a single failure in any component, a single point of failure, can stop traffic flowing correctly into or out of the environment. So this approach is commonly used for development or testing environments only. The following figure shows each layer or tier, we can say, has a separate server, virtual or either physical. Using this type of design or for production environment is not recommended. Why? Because there is a single point of failure. Any of the server in between these layers, if fails, whole system will stop, will halt until unless that problem is resolved. So how this can be improved? By using the redundant three-tier architecture. So the redundant three-tier architectures add another set of the same components for redundancy. As we can see here, there are two load balancer, there are two application server. The database also is replicated along with the master database. We have a slave database also. So everything will be copied so that we have a redundant copy of the system that we had already. Additional design components do increase complexity, of course, when we add additional things. So that will increase the complexity, but are required if designing for failover and recovery protection. Designing redundant infrastructure requires a well thought out plan for the components within each layer. That is the horizontal scaling. As we can see that we have scaled on the horizontal level. Let's say if we come down from DNS to the database, we have seen that load balancer is copied down horizontally on the right hand side. Also application server is copied down on the right hand side. So as we can see that the redundancy is increasing over horizontal. So that's why that is called horizontal scaling. As well as a plan for how the traffic will flow from one layer to another. That is known as the vertical scaling. Vertical scaling how? Let's say I have requested the DNS. So the DNS will pass on to the load balancer, then to the application layer, then to the application server, then to the database. So as we can see here, the flow of the traffic is from top to down. That is vertically. That's why it is called vertical scaling. So within the redundant three-tier architecture, we can see. So first we consider the single point of failure, whether there is single point of failure or not. In redundant architecture, duplicate components
Rishabh,
eliminate. Yes, sir.
go
Yes,
to
sir.
the last slide.
Yes, sir.
You have mentioned here the vertical scaling. That is incorrect, right? In the if you are talking about the DNS, then the load balancer, then the application, then it goes to the master database. It is representing the n tier architecture or three-tier architecture, right?
Yes, sir.
And why we are replicating? We are replicating for the scalability and higher availability.
Yes,
The
sir.
vertical scaling simply means using the resources of high-end specifications. Suppose I have a laptop of i5 processor, and let's say the number of users increases drastically, right? From let's say I have a users, let's say 500, and it goes to 5,000, right? So the one possibility I can choose for vertical scaling means I can buy a high-end specification laptop so that it can serve 5,000 users concurrently, right? That is vertical
Yes.
scaling. In case of
Yes, sir.
horizontal scaling, I can go for buying more numbers of similar kinds of laptops, right? That is horizontal scaling. It is not you have said that DNS goes to load balancer, then application. It is representing the tiers. And why we are replicating? The replication is here. In the left side we have load balancer, and the right side we have also load balancer. That is horizontal scaling.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
That is not vertical scaling. In vertical scaling, you cannot draw in in the single diagram because it does not represent anything. Suppose in the master database, let's say the previous capacity was to store, let's say 1000 TB, right? And after vertical scaling, it will be represented as same, but the new storage will be, let's say, 2000 TB, right? That is the vertical scaling. Means expanding its length, expanding its size, expanding its resources. That is vertical
Yes.
scaling, not that. Yeah, okay, you go on.
Yes, sir. So for the redundant three-tier architecture, so single point of failure. So in redundant architecture, duplicating the components eliminates the single point of failure present when only one device or component is present in the layer. So as we can see here, if a single path, let's say from the load balancer one to the application server, then to the database, then to the master database. If this path fails, then we have another path that can accomplish our that can accomplish our request. So from load balancer 2, then to application 2, and then. So the single point of failure has been eliminated by by doing replication. So present in the layer with one component in a layer, there is only one way in and a one way out. A second device adds multiple ingress and egress points to the design, eliminating the single point of failure associated with the single component layer design. As we can see, as we have seen in the non-redundant three-tier architecture. Redundancy versus resiliency. So the redundancy and resiliency are often confused. They are related but not interchangeable. Redundancy is something that is done to prevent failure, implying that it happens before an issue happens. Whereas resiliency from the word resolve relates to how to find solution after a problem has occurred. So redundancy is before the issue, resiliency is after. For example, redundant database with a replication can be utilized. Multiple components and copies of data create a redundant design. If the primary side of the database pair fails, the secondary side will promote to primary and begin to pick up the load, while the failed side self repairs. The failover and self healing functions are resiliency. Both are related but not interchangeable. Now coming down to the horizontal scaling, one web server within the redundant three-tier architecture. So the one web server is currently used in the design. To add redundancy, we must horizontally scale the web server layer by adding additional web servers, eliminating the single point of failure. How will traffic be passed to the both servers? And how does the packet on the wire know which web server to go and which part to take in and out? And how is how all of this are physically connected? So the load balancing is a major design component when adding redundancy to designs. A single load balancer will help to delegate traffic across multiple servers, but a single load balancer creates another single point of failure for redundant single point of failure. For redundancy, 2 or more load balancers are added to designs. So the load balancers control traffic patterns. There are many interesting configurations to consider when deciding how to control and distribute traffic. Distribution may relate to traffic type, content, traffic patterns, or the ability of servers to respond to the request. Load balancer helps to handle the traffic logically. How is the traffic handled at the physical layer can be conceptualized using the OSI layer or the physical layer. And as we have seen in the OSI model, we have different layers. So how the traffic will be handled like physical layer will be considered in this point. So this is a hardware implementation. I have not given so much importance to this part because. So let's see how OSI model and layer description. So the designs always start at the physical layer, working up the stack from the bottom to the top. See the following diagram. Many load balancers today work at all layers of the OSI stack. Back to the questions: how are multiple load balancers physically connected to multiple servers, creating multiple ingress and egress points, ingress and egress paths. Multiple switches may also be required. So multiple switches will be required in order to implement the load balancers physically on the ground. If we want to implement the load balancing or the horizontal scaling, let's say. So logical and physical designs. So designs can be logical or physical. It is very important to remain clear on what is represented. Logical diagrams illustrate how things logically flow through the design. Eliminating some of the physical connections may help the viewer focus on logical flows through the design. Conversely, physical layouts may not include many of the logical details and configurations to focus the viewer on physical characteristics and attributes of the design. So we have to take care of the both logical and physical design. So now coming down to the auto scaling in the architecture. So a key benefit is the ability to consume what is needed when it is needed. So auto scaling describes the ability to scale horizontally, that is shrink or grow the number of running server instances. As we can see here the application, we can see here the server array on the right hand side on the slide on the right hand side diagram. We have application server number 1, application server number 2, application server number 3, and depending upon the load, the traffic, we can either increase or decrease the number of servers. So that is happened dynamically and automatically. So how to achieve this? So as application user demand changes over the time, so auto scaling describes the ability to scale horizontally, that is shrink or grow the number of running server instances as application user demand changes over the time. Auto scaling is often utilized within web or app tiers within the baseline architectures mentioned. In the following figure, an additional server is dynamically added based on the demand on threshold setting. We can set the threshold whether we have to when to add an additional server when the threshold for the given traffic exceeds. We add an additional server to tone down the traffic, and pressure on the different servers that are already part of that system. So load balancers must be pre-configured or configured dynamically to handle the servers that are added. So as we can see here, the load balancers transfer the traffic from application server number 1, then some other traffic to application server number 2, then other traffic to application server number 3. If we add dynamically another application server, then load balancer should know that another server has been added and the traffic can also be diverted over there. So we have to pre-configure them or make them possible enough to configure them dynamically on the runtime. So as we can see here in this diagram, let's say if we request for a site, the very first server, that is the application server number 1, it is not working properly. So the load balancer 2 will using HA proxy will request the another, so reroutes the request to next load balancer. So this will help to divert the path of the traffic from a given server to another server that is already working fine. So RightScale has found HA proxy, that HA proxy defines for the high availability proxy. So RightScale has found HA proxy to be the highest performance, most reliable and dependable software load balancer, especially when you need to scale very quickly. So what is RightScale? RightScale is another kind of a deployment technique. So RightScale is deployment of deployment when we have to deploy a cluster or a group of servers. So as we can see here, we are deploying more than one server. So RightScale is a deployment technique. When HA proxy is used in conjunction with Apache, it allows you to handle SSL connections and filter incoming requests to serve static content locally or direct traffic to one or more server arrays. We have seen in the we have a server array in which we have more than one server connected all together. This additional use of Apache adds a lot of flexibility with only a negligible amount of latency. Our default load balancers are configured to run in this manner. So as we can see here, in the app server, the client is tied to app server 1 for the duration of his session. So when a client requests the website for something that is required for his usage, so if he is using application server number 1, he will be tied for the given session to that application to that server only. So the request will be passed from the DNS to the load balancer. Load balancer will tie the request to the application server number 1, and then it will go on to the database layer. So the request will be processed, replied through this path only, the very first path. So what happens when the application number 1 is no longer available? The client connection will be lost, as we have seen in very more of the website that during the when we are working on the website only, sometimes the website page shows that the page is not available. When we refresh, it automatically reloads and we can easily see the page. So what says that in between the session, the very first of the server crashed, and the connection with the client and the server is lost. So when we reload the page, the load balancer will tie now the request to the another web server that is available and working fine. Meanwhile, the server that is crashed, the application server number 1 will heal itself on its own or through the manual process. So this path in which we have seen that the in between a session, if the server fails, so there is a chance of data loss, potential data loss. So this is the first part, and the second part of the slide is the non-functional requirements. So as we have seen in the previous semester and in this semester also, that we have many of the non-functional requirements that we have to meet. So in this slide, we are not discussing about that. We are discussing about how to measure those non-functional requirements. So we have seen that there are the six main non-functional requirements that are efficiency, complexity, scalability, heterogeneity, adaptability, dependability. Also, we have seen some of the FERPS rules. So HP uses it as an ISO quality for service, that is for the security and serviceability, performability, reliability, usability, and functionality. HP uses this as its non-functional parameters for better quality. So when we talk about the non-functional requirements, sometimes there is no specific rule or measurement, but also there is a saying: if you cannot measure that, you cannot. If you cannot measure that, you cannot improve. Actually, it has to be you cannot improve it. So we have to measure that in order to improve our non-functional requirements. So everything in this case are relative. Comparison can be done on the basis of good, better, best, and that too changes with the time. So definition of good, better, best changes along with the time. So everything is relative. So let's say if we talk about the performance, so in earlier times, 1 gigahertz will be considered as a good performance for the given processor. But now at times 1 gigahertz is not considered as a good performance. So the comparison or the relative measure of that performance is increased, or we can say changed over the time. So these all things are relative. So let's see some product oriented attributes. So let's say defining performance on the basis of product orientation. So performance. We can
अभिषेक
measure.
ये सब छोड़ो. अभिषेक.
Yes, sir.
Abhishek, yeah, let us. These are
Yes,
the
sir.
project-oriented attribute. इसको छोड़ो. Anything, these are very common things. कोई इसमें खासियत नहीं है, कोई खास information नहीं है. And all these reliability measures आपने बहुत पढ़ा है. We can close it. We can close it. I think it is now. और कोई fourth बंदा को तुम बोला था ना?
यस सर, वो absent है सर.
वो absent है. आप बोले थे वो बंदा absent रह गया.
नो सर, उसने मैसेज किया था कि सर उसके पेट में बहुत दर्द हो रहा है.
हाँ, पेट में दर्द आ तो जब पढ़ाई की काम आएगा तो पेट में दर्द, टट्टी, सब बहाना, मार्केट घूमने की जाना. ओके, we'll close it down. We don't appreciate this type of बहानाबाजी. प्रतीक की बहाना चल रहा है और दूसरा बंदा की बहाना हम लोग आज बढ़िया से देख लिए. ये सब बहानाबाजी बचपना ठीक नहीं लगता है. I hate you are no more a small tiny boy that will be going on telling that don't be a little kid. Okay, we'll be having class on Monday. ठीक है अभिषेक, बंद करें?
यस सर.
ओके, ठीक है, बंद करें. ओके.
ऋषभ
सोनी was good. हाँ जी
सर, अटेंडेंस लेना है या नहीं?
हाँ, अटेंडेंस ले लो. जो लोग घूम रहे हैं रास्ते में घूमने दो. आप पकड़ के ला नहीं सकोगे. जिसका पानी पीने की जरूरत नहीं, आप कितना पिलाओगे वो भी नहीं पिएगा. ओके, ले लो अटेंडेंस. ठीक है, Monday 4:15 we are meeting. I am leaving. Okay, I am leaving. Okay.
समझोगे बाबा.
कौन कौन एब्सेंट है वही बता दो मेरे को. मेरा लैपटॉप बंद है आज, लाइट नहीं है आज. कौन कौन एब्सेंट है? एक विकास एब्सेंट है, लेखा एब्सेंट है.
नहीं, हेलो सर.
क्या?
विकास प्रेजेंट सर.
सॉरी, विद्या. सॉरी, विद्या, श्रीलेखा एंड आशुतोष एंड एक कौन है? प्रतीक एब्सेंट है. और कोई देख के बताओ कौन एब्सेंट है. ये 4 तो हैं. कितने हैं टोटल कितने हैं? 19 या 18?
19.